good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Infinite Crypto Cruisers. Hey there, folks. My name is Brad Varnell. This is the Infinite Crypto YouTube channel. I am excited to be coming to you live from Nashville, Tennessee. Been here for the last 5 days or so for the Bitcoin 2024 conference. And man, what an amazing conference it was. You know, you guys know me. I've been around crypto for a long time now. Super excited about it, always have been. But a conference like this, where you get to hear people like, you know, Michael Saylor and Kathy Wood, and interview Gary Cardone, and hear all of these people's take on crypto and Bitcoin and why Bitcoin can actually kind of save the world when it comes to the financial crises that are facing all of us. I just came away from this conference just so pumped, more excited than I've ever been. I realize more and more that I'm in the right place at the right time. I'm teaching people the right things. And so, man, I am excited to be here with you on this Monday morning. I guess it must be about July 29th. Tonight. Today's the 29th of July. I only know that because tomorrow's the 30th, and that's my birthday. Will officially be 51 years old here in a few hours. And so I am excited to share a little bit with you about the Bitcoin conference, and then talk to you a little bit about a word called sacrifice that has been on my mind lately. So let's get right into it. So the Bitcoin conference, one of the biggest things that I realized was how many people, major players in the space, have that understand why Bitcoin is the best money that's ever been created in the history of the world. And, you know, a little bit of a epiphany that I had, if you will, was sometimes I think that maybe I'm talking about shorter time frames than I should. And I'm not going to stop doing that, because I think that that's where my heart is. But at the same time, I got to realize that there's multiple different people out there, multiple different dreams. And so I'm always selling the dream of financial freedom in the next 6, 9, 12 months. You know, if you're brand new to crypto, and depending on how much money you have to invest, maybe you're looking at more like 4 or 5 years. One of the things, and I still believe that that's totally possible, I'm going to talk about it, but I realize that there's a lot of people out there that don't necessarily have that dream. Now, maybe it's just because life has beaten them down and they just aren't able to, you know, conceptualize the ability to have that freedom, to be able to walk away from their 9 to 5. They've been trained their whole life to have, you know, a 9 to 5 type of a job. But I also think there are a certain subset of people out there that really just, you know, they like their job, they like what they're doing. And to a certain extent, even if they might consider the idea of having their financial freedom in the next year or two, when it seems impossible to them, they just do nothing. What I've found in life, folks, is that if you don't believe that something is possible, you're never even going to take the first step. So one of the things that I realized at this Bitcoin conference, listening to Michael Saylor, and I'm going to try to find the clip of him from Bitcoin 2024 and figure out a way to share that with you guys. You could probably even just Google it on YouTube. You know, try Googling Michael Saylor Bitcoin 2024 speech. But he went through a slideshow that showed just, you know, normal investors, people that just invest like 10% of their Bitcoin, And then I don't remember the parameters for like the double maxi and the triple maxi, but he basically, when you were a double maxi, you put a higher percentage of your net worth into Bitcoin. You're also taking all of your disposable income. You're taking any extra money that you have at the end of the week or at the end of the month and buying Bitcoin with it. And then I forget, a triple maxi, if I remember correctly, was somebody that was taking all of their money. So not just a portion of their investment money. They were taking their whole investment portfolio, basically putting it into Bitcoin. They were also taking all of their extra money that they were making on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, any extra money coming into the household, and going ahead and putting that into Bitcoin. And then these guys, the triple down part was where they started leveraging assets. He said, you don't want to go to, Money Tree and take out a loan, at 36% interest to buy Bitcoin. But if you had a house or a car or something where you could leverage an asset and borrow money against it at like 3% a year for 30 years, that would be an incredible way to put money into Bitcoin. And it's something that I hadn't really thought about. But imagine that. Say you've got a $500,000 home that's got, a few $100,000 in equity because you bought it, back in 10, 15 years ago when the market was crushed. Maybe you got into it. My sister has a house that she paid, probably in the ballpark of about 150,000 for, that's probably worth $500,000 easy now. Imagine if her and my brother-in-law went and pulled out $100,000 to $300,000 in equity at 3%, 4%, 5% and put it into Bitcoin, which has been averaging around 55% a year for quite a while now. Now, obviously, us in the crypto market know that it's a little more volatile than that. It's not just a straight 55% every single year. But if you're looking at holding it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, then you really don't worry too much about the heart attack chart. And so that was something that I really caught my attention, because I'm one of the first people to admit that I don't have a whole lot of Bitcoin. My strategy in order to create wealth and financial freedom fast is to be in a little bit more speculative tokens. But one of the things that this weekend showed me is that I want to start dollar cost averaging. I want to start using Bitcoin basically as a savings account, and pretty much look at my Bitcoin as something that I'm never going to spend, because more and more financial instruments are coming down the pikeway, so that we don't actually have to access our Bitcoin. We don't have to sell our Bitcoin, pay the capital gains taxes and all of that. In fact, I've got a couple platforms that I'm going to be sharing with you. I talked with one of the owners and founders and people that were very high up in a company called Meanwhile, which is the first Bitcoin life insurance product that has come out onto the market, where you actually pay your premiums in Bitcoin. And then if anything ever happens to you, your family gets paid out in Bitcoin. Something that I thought was super exciting about that is if you're paying your premiums in Bitcoin right now, at $70,000 a Bitcoin, let's just say that you bought a 1 Bitcoin policy that was worth, say, 2 or 2.5 Bitcoin. Well, right now, that Bitcoin policy, if you just wanted to pay it full, would be $70,000 that you would be putting in to this Bitcoin life insurance policy. But let's say that something happens to you in 5 or 10 years and your family gets 2 Bitcoin. Well, that obviously doesn't sound like that big of a deal, in a sense where you're only going to get $140,000 if it's today's price of around 70,000. But let's say that Bitcoin has 5 or 10x'd. So now instead of that Bitcoin that your family gets being worth 140,000, you're talking about it could be worth $1 million. Those 2 Bitcoin could be worth $1 million down the road, and it's all tax free to your family. It's also you can't really use the word investment. It's not an investment vehicle, but it's a store of value, and you actually have the ability to borrow against it. So if something happened 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that's, it's called a whole life policy, where you can actually borrow against your Bitcoin. You get it in Bitcoin, you can turn it into fiat, and because you're borrowing it, there's no capital gains. And anyways, folks, and I'm talking to another guy that is from Arch Finance or Arch Capital, where you can take out loans against your Bitcoin. And I know a lot of us here in the crypto space are scared of that because of Celsius and Voyager, but folks, this is a little bit different. Your Bitcoin gets locked up in cold wallets. It's not being used to try to, there's nothing risky as far as where they're going to go out and lose all of your Bitcoin, but they're able to pay, you're able to then borrow against your Bitcoin so that you don't have to sell it and pay those capital gains taxes. So there's so many ways that are coming to us, even as United States citizens, that are, government approved and that are going to be legal to us United States citizens, where if you have a big stack of Bitcoin, you can really leverage it and use it for life while not having to sell it. Because one of the things that Michael Saylor said, I've always thought about the fact that absolutely Bitcoin is going to be $1 million asset someday. And Michael Saylor is talking about how countries are going to probably start coming in and being these triple Bitcoin maxis, and that there's only room for a couple of countries to come in and do this. There's not enough Bitcoin for all of the countries to come in and basically use Bitcoin to save the day. He even did a slideshow and showed where the United States can roughly wipe out their, I think it was $30 trillion national debt, and actually have a surplus of a few $trillion. I want to say it was in roughly a 15 to 25-year time frame. It wasn't short term. It was, at the very least, it was 15 years. It might have been slightly longer. But he basically showed where if the United States were to be a triple maxi, where if they were to take their reserves and buy Bitcoin with it, and then put some surplus into it and hold Bitcoin for the long term, that the appreciation in Bitcoin over the next 15 years would totally wipe out our national debt and actually put us in a position where we had a few $1 trillion surplus. How powerful that would make us be. And then, the cherry on top was Donald Trump was there live. We actually got inside the room. We're able to get a little bit of footage. Hopefully we'll get some stuff that was good enough to share with you. At the very least, I know we got some still pictures and some stuff. I don't know if our recordings turned out well enough to share them or what we got recorded, but we were in the room and got to listen to the excitement and the enthusiasm and the electricity that was in the air as Donald Trump started talking about Bitcoin and his policies. One of my favorite things is he said he's going to fire Gary Gensler on day one if he gets elected. And the room just erupted. And he's like, wow, I didn't know you guys disliked him so much. Let me say that again. I'm going to fire Gary Gensler on day one if I get elected. And the room just erupted again. He talked about the United States being an ally, keeping the jobs here, the United States making crypto friendly to where people and businesses wanted to stay here in the United States and not go. He realizes that if we're not careful, we're going to lose crypto to the Chinas and all of the other areas of the world. And if Donald Trump gets elected, he's not going to let that happen. He's very, very, very crypto friendly. And so I've just never been more excited about the long-term future. But if you're one of those folks that just is like, hey, I just want to be Myrtle the Turtle, I don't care if I have millions of dollars in 6 months, but I'm 40 years old, and I want to know that by the time I'm 55, 60, 65, 70, that I'm going to have an incredible retirement in place and be able to live out my golden years without any stress and without any worry and to actually be able to enjoy life a little bit. It really sounds like, and I very much believe that if you just start dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin every time you get paid, take a percentage of your paycheck and just buy Bitcoin and forget about it. If you're not worried about it, like most people have 401ks that they never touch for 10, 20, 30 years until it gets to the time where they're getting, to retirement age. So if you can look at your Bitcoin savings account in the same way, where you can buy Bitcoin once a week or every 2 weeks or once a month, if you do that for the next 10, 15, 20 years, you are going to have a massive amount of money. I mean, I really believe that for those of you that got 15 or 20 years before you want to access your money, Bitcoin's probably going to be worth $1 million is nothing. We're talking about, Michael Saylor is showing on these slideshows where a $3 million Bitcoin would be very, very conservative. And I think it was like a 10 or 11 million dollar Bitcoin on the aggressive side. And from what I've seen, I think that more and more adoption is going to be coming into the space. There is very few percentage of the population that really understand Bitcoin and blockchain technology. And as it becomes more and more mainstream and adopted, and more people rush to get their share of the Bitcoin that's available, it's just going to do absolutely massive things to the price. So you could literally, I think if you had 70,000 lying around, you could almost literally buy a Bitcoin right now today, and 15, 20 years from now, you'd be set. Like you almost, I would never recommend not continuing to invest. But if all you did was just buy a Bitcoin today and forget about it, wake up in 15 or 20 years, you'd probably have $1 million or more easy in your Bitcoin account. And if you do it through like a Roth IRA or a investment vehicle where you get to withdraw your money tax free, you're sitting there with $1 million or $2 or $3 million worth of assets that are tax free. Anyways, I can definitely just say that Bitcoin is a little bit more on my radar than it used to be, just because I'm starting to realize that everybody should own some. Like most financial advisors for wealthy people have always said that you should own a little bit of gold as a hedge against inflation. I'm really starting to believe that Bitcoin is one of those assets where even me, where I'm, trying to get the 25, 50, 100,000x, I need to take a small portion of my investment portfolio and just start buying Bitcoin with it. I used to listen to an influencer that had a strategy where every time, let's say that he invested $1,000 into a coin and it turned into $5,000 and he sold some of it, he would always take 10% of his profit and put it into Bitcoin, 10% of his profit, put it into Ethereum. And I'm starting to see the wisdom in some strategies like that. And that's something that we're going to, maybe talk about more. But once again, like just kind of to recap, man, Bitcoin is not going anywhere. Crypto is not going anywhere. If you're here watching this right now and you've got a portfolio, you've got a lot to be excited about. The next 6 to 9 months are going to be absolutely amazing. And you are definitely in the right place at the right time. And if you've been watching this channel and you just get tired of the, hey, we're going to be rich in 6 months, and you want to just be wealthy in 10 or 15 or 20 years, then stick around, because we're going to be talking about that a little bit more. And in some ways, that's less stress. Once again, you can just kind of set it and forget it. You can go into Coinbase and set up an automatic Bitcoin purchase for whatever, dates you want in your pay cycle, and, just buy some Bitcoin, maybe, buy a little Ethereum and some of the top 25s to go along with it. But literally, if you want to be rich in 15 or 20 years, you probably can just buy Bitcoin and just, set it and forget it. Once again, one of the highlights was meeting Gary Cardone and actually getting a chance to spend a few minutes with him. That interview is already up and published on the channel. It's just a 3 or 4 minute interview, but it was very, very impactful. He talked about the digitization of the world. And I think you'll enjoy his point of view on Bitcoin and what is happening right now in blockchain technology. He actually had an opportunity to meet with BlackRock. He was talking with Michael Saylor. So, Gary Cardone is very, very in the mix when it comes to all of this crypto stuff. So with that, folks, we are hanging out here in Nashville, Tennessee. We're getting ready to take off for the day and find some fun stuff to do, celebrate my birthday tomorrow, and then we're headed back home super early in the morning on Wednesday. I haven't looked at my schedule to see, though. I'm guessing, hey, babe, I just thought about that again. When we go home on Wednesday, we're probably ain't going to be around by 9 o'clock in the morning to do my live stream on Wednesday, are we? Didn't think about that when we planned out this trip. We should have probably left on Tuesday and came home on Tuesday or something like that, or waited a day, came home on Thursday. But what time?
8:15.
Yeah, so we're supposed to.
10.
What's that? Yeah, that's a possibility. I'll keep you guys posted. So the live stream on Wednesday for the microcap gems might be pushed out. Just do it a little bit later in the day, because if I don't do it later in the day, I'm going to be in a car. I think our flight, it sounds like, arrives at about 8:15 in the morning. But by the time we get our luggage, get into an Uber, or however we're going to get back to our place, I'll probably be sitting in a car, and I would just have to try to do a live stream from the phone. So we'll see. We'll figure it out. We'll do a little something. On last Wednesday, I goofed up, and somehow when I did the live stream from my phone, I didn't make it public. So I wondered why nobody was getting onto it. And then I realized after it was over that somehow on my phone, there was an option to make it public or to keep it private. And I didn't check the public option. So if I do decide to do anything from my phone on Wednesday, I will definitely make sure that it's public. But we'll have something coming out. I'm really trying hard that Monday and Wednesday, I don't want there to be any excuses. So that's kind of reminds me in the future when we're traveling, I'm definitely going to try to, just worked out the way that it worked out for this trip, that both travel days were Wednesday, but we're going to try to keep that from happening. Tuesdays and Thursdays would be much better travel days with us doing Monday and Wednesday live streams. So last but not least, I'm not going to dwell on this for very long, but I wanted to talk about the word sacrifice. It hit me like a ton of bricks this weekend when because even myself, sacrifice, when you hear that word sacrifice, it doesn't make you all warm and fuzzy. It doesn't sound like a positive word. It doesn't sound like, a good word. Nobody wants to hear, hey, you got to sacrifice this, you got to sacrifice that. None of us enjoy the word sacrifice. And really, in my opinion, the more that I thought about it this week, the more that I believe that we need to embrace the word sacrifice, and we need to turn it into a positive word, at least in our own personal dictionaries, in our own mind. So one of the sacrifices that I made this week was going to an after-hour party that I got invited to that, man, our feet were tired. We'd been up since the crack of dawn. We'd been walking all day. We'd been doing interviews all day. The last thing that all of us just wanted to go back to our hotel room and just relax. And we got invited to this after hours party, and we all looked at each other and was like, yeah, no matter how badly we don't really want to go, we know we should. And we made the sacrifice. We had to go find and pay, a bunch of money for parking. And, we had to, then the road was blocked off. We had to walk a ways to get to this place where the event was being held. But man, we got some incredible connections. We met a guy named Larry Jones. I'm excited for you to see his interview. He's got over 600,000 subscribers. It's amazing how many influencers are out there that none of us have ever probably heard of. This gentleman was absolutely incredible, just such a blessing in our life. And he was, so gracious and humble, and he gave us several minutes of his time. So I think the interview with Larry Jones that we're going to be publishing soon is 4 or 5 minutes long, but it's 4 or 5 minutes just packed full of greatness. And then you guys are probably going to want to go follow this gentleman and listen. He's not only a crypto guy, but he's very, very intelligent and versed in the stock market too. And we met just multiple incredible people at that party, and we walked away from that party feeling 10 feet tall and bulletproof. We were proud of ourselves, and it was an incredible experience, and we would have really been making a huge mistake if we would have decided not to go to that. But it took sacrifice, and it's just sacrifice is necessary in all areas of our life. If you want to be financially successful, you're going to make a few sacrifices along the way. When you take that 5 or 10 or 15 or 20% of your income and you invest it, and you're looking at that money and what it's going to do for you in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, that's a sacrifice. Because if you weren't doing that, you could just use it in your life right now and have more fun right now. But you sacrifice in the moment. I like to call it, the main difference between success and happiness is that most people choose what they want now over what they want most. And so sacrifice is just choosing what you want most. With eating, being healthy, it takes a sacrifice. You have to stay away from some of the bad foods. You can't be eating Doritos and ice cream all day long every day. There's sacrifice. But the benefit of having a strong body and looking sharp and being healthy, I'm going to have a grandbaby in January of this next coming year. I'm going to have a grandson. I found out that it's a boy. And the ability to walk around and be able to run with this little guy and play with him. And, by the time he's 4 or 5 years old, I'm going to be 55, 56. I want to be able to teach him how to play basketball, throw a football. So the sacrifices that I make now with my diet and with my exercise are going to pay off down the road. But just about everything in life, folks, it takes sacrifice up front to have the long-term pleasure down the road. And the fact of the matter is, folks, you're sacrificing either way. If you don't sacrifice some of your money and invest it now, then you're going to sacrifice your life down the road because you're not going to have any money and it's going to be a miserable existence. If you don't sacrifice some of those Doritos and ice cream and you don't get out there and spend some time in the gym getting healthy, you're going to pay the price at some point in time in your life. You're going to be laying in a hospital bed, or you're going to be overweight to the point where you can't enjoy any activity. You can't go swimming. You can't go do any of the things that you want to do in life because you're so overweight that, that it's just impossible to do the things that a healthy person can do. So you're going to have pain and sacrifice. It's just a matter of, do you want to pay the pain and sacrifice up front so that you can have the long-term happiness on the backside? Or do you want to live for yourself and do all of the things that you want to do right now and with no thought for the future and pay the price down the road? So, folks, I'm going to work hard at creating a positive mental image in my mind when I hear that word sacrifice, and hopefully you guys do too. So with that, I do want to say real fast here to everybody, thank you so much for being here. Eric, appreciate you, man. Dave P, always in the house, I appreciate you too. And then we've got a Dak Sheena, we appreciate you. Go Trump, go crypto. Bitcoin is the beginning. Blockchain technology-based projects with real-world value and utility are the future, and the future has arrived. You are right. Thank you so much for being here. And then he says, you're spot on. Go Trump, go crypto. Bitcoin is only, and then he says it again, but, and then happy birthday. Hey, thank you so much. So with that, folks, hey, Tim G, good to see you, my friend. No worries. You're not late, man. You're right on time, brother. You can always go back and watch the replay. So with that, folks, I love you all. I'm going to go hang out with my family, with my loved ones here in Nashville, and appreciate each and every one of you. And we will see you again on Wednesday. Take care. God bless.